Hi, everyone. I'm here with JoAnn, and today we're just here to talk about your entire life story. So I just wanted to get started on asking what were you like growing up? Like where did you grow up, and how were those like early childhood years for you?
Well, I was born here in New Jersey. I guess I was always kind of a introspective, bookish kid,
Yeah.
and I often lived a lot in my imagination. I guess I still do, but I was kind of the kid who liked to be by herself, like reading her books and a lot of times making up stories in my head.
Yeah. Were there like any specific genre of stories or any books that influenced you when you were little?
Um, I watched cartoons. I would watch movies like The Wizard of Oz. Um, a lot of times I would just make up my own stories. I remember as a child, I had one particular time where I made up an outer space musical in my
Oh, a musical. Wait, tell me a little more about that.
I don't remember the specifics, but it was an outer space musical, and I kind of imagined myself kind of like, swishing about in the story and doing the parts for the various characters.
Yeah, so you were super creative as a kid. Were you exploring different art forms at this time, or were you just
I
focused
wasn't
on?
really doing artwork. I did like stories a lot. My mother encouraged me to read a lot. She would tell me stories, so I think she especially encouraged my creativity.
Yeah. Did you find yourself having any creative outlets then? If or is it mainly just reading and creating stories?
Do you mean as a child or now?
Yeah, as a child.
I did. I did always enjoy watching movies and cartoons and stories, and I would get very into them. Sometimes I would imagine like what would happen to the characters after the story was over. If I didn't like the way the story ended, I would imagine my own endings that I liked, a more fitting end for the characters if I didn't like the way the things had ended. But I kind of I didn't really explore the art so much at that time, but it was more into like making up stories and thinking up little scenes in my head.
Yeah, so when did you start exploring different forms of art? Was it when you were in high school, college?
Um, I was interested in art. I always found art appealing. I didn't really explore it much until I was older. I do remember one time in high school, our art teacher took us to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, which I had never been to before. And I thought that was a very mind blowing experience to go to the art museum and to see all of this artwork. Um, and it would never have occurred to me to go there if we didn't go on the field trip to go there and see all this amazing art from all different cultures and all different periods from around the world.
Yeah. So when you entered college, like where did you go? What was your major? What were you thinking?
Well,
Like
I took English literature,
so
which
still
I guess,
somewhat creative and expressionist. Um,
and later I went back to college and I took art history.
oh, I see, I see. So what did you learn while studying English literature? Why did you choose it?
Well, I think it goes back to the enjoying reading and liking stories and storytelling.
Yeah. And
And taking art history later, I actually didn't think it through too much. I took art history because I liked art, but I didn't realize when I was taking the courses that it's really more of a research type feel. You're researching like the history and the documentation as opposed to I was more of a I like to look at paintings and I enjoy the aesthetic experience of it. So I realized later on that maybe that wasn't the greatest field for me to enter. But on the other hand, it did expose me to a lot of art, learning about different periods of art and different cultures. So in that sense, it was helpful to expose me to a lot of art and I guess to just I don't know, feed my mind and maybe feed into my creativity, even though it didn't entirely work out in terms of a field that a field that I would work in.
Yeah. After college, then what was the field that you decided to work in?
Well, I'm still for a while I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I eventually ended up I'm working at a small nonprofit, which is where I still work now. But
Oh,
at one point, I was trying to kind of develop like an outlet in terms of exploring visual art. And at first, I tried. I've never really taken classes in painting or drawing or things like that, and I I tried out collage. And initially, it was paper collage with cutting out elements and pasting them or gluing them to paper. So I enjoyed the idea of that, although kind of the problem with that is once you cut something out and paste it onto the paper, you're sort of stuck with what you pasted to the paper. You can't eat. I mean, I suppose you could paste over it, but once you commit to something, you sort of have to work with what you've done.
yeah. Was it that sense of like permanency that like you make a decision and you're just stuck with it?
And then sometimes I would think, oh, I didn't really want to do that, or oh, I don't really like the way that came out. So it's kind of like, oh no, I kind of got myself into a corner there.
I see, I see. So is that why you transitioned out of making collages or
Well, then I transitioned to using Photoshop to make collages
Oh,
because then
okay.
I
Perfect.
found, well, if you don't like it, you can just, delete that layer or you can do something else with it or change the colors or there's more flexibility where
Yeah.
if you aren't happy with the way a particular composition is going, you can kind of go back and just change the layers or change the effects. So I thought there was more flexibility with that, and also there were certain effects you could do with electronic collage that you can't do or that you can't do easily with paper collage with layers of transparency, overlays, and other effects.
Yeah.
So that I found kind of appealing to be able to explore that.
Did you find that like leaving your options open and allowing to like see what works, see what doesn't was important in your creative process?
I think it's helpful. Sometimes it can be frustrating. There are times when I have an idea and I start working on it and I think, okay, this is good. This is going the way I want. And then other times it's not going so good and it can be a little frustrating. You think, well, this isn't working. Maybe I'll try that. Maybe I'll try this other thing. Sometimes I just end up saying, you know what, I have to step back or like put it aside for a while and kind of let my mind work on it and allow myself to come up with a solution as opposed to just sitting there and trying to force a solution to an artistic problem.
Yeah. For the collages, when you said sometimes you have ideas that work out as you intend, sometimes they don't. Where do these ideas stem from?
It depends. Sometimes it'll be like an idea. So I might have an idea like solitude. I want to do something about solitude. Sometimes it might be a visual element that I came across something, I thought it was interesting, and I decided to build a collage around it. Sometimes it might be a word or a piece of text from something. A lot of times I like to look at public domain stuff, texts or images, and something will just strike me and I'll decide that I want to build a collage using some of those elements.
Yeah, going back to like that digital versus physical and how when you make them on Photoshop, you have the ability to add effects and go back. Do you find it different when like the finished product is something that you're just seeing on a screen versus something that you could physically hold? Like what's the difference with that?
Mm, I mean, the process is different and the way you achieve the effects is different. Are you talking about seeing the finished product, or just does it feel different doing a physical one or a digital one?
I think both, yeah.
I will say sometimes my original idea, when I end up with the finished product, it may not necessarily look the way I originally imagined it, partly because I changed my mind as I was working on it.
Okay.
Maybe I decided that if I do this thing or that thing, it actually is better than the original idea I had. So sometimes just the process of working on it will change the direction of the original idea I had.
Yeah. Were you making these collages while you were working at the nonprofit? Or
Yes.
I see, I see. And was it difficult balancing that like you were spending time on the collages while also working? Like,
Um, Sometimes, I mean, sometimes you finish work and you think I don't feel like working on an art project, or
yeah.
you might not feel terribly inspired. But part of the reason I took it up is because um, I kind of wanted to have a creative outlet to balance out having an office job that isn't, strictly speaking about art. So it's kind of a useful outlet to have to express like creative impulses or creative ideas.
Yeah, it's like important to foster that creative side of you, especially when like it sounds like when you were little you were always being creative, so you're just trying to do that while
Mm.
you're working. Yeah. So after I was looking at your the work you have displayed now, and it seemingly have transitioned from collages into something else. Well, can you speak a little more on like exploring different types of art forms and doing other types of art besides collages?
Lately, I've been doing a lot of photography. I do a lot of nature photography. I do some travel photography. Um, I find architecture interesting if they're houses or monuments and such.
What about architecture that you find interesting?
Um, well, it's produced by humans, so I guess it's an expression of aesthetics, ideas. I guess it also expresses feelings. With older buildings, being able to see the age or the effect of like time on a building, that also creates kind of an added dimension to it, or an added interest to see how it's changed being exposed to the elements or just through the effects of time.
Yeah, and you were talking about also doing travel photography and nature photography. Could you speak a little more on those?
um well, I enjoy generally like being outdoors and traveling, and it's a way to kind of combine, just getting a change of pace with making a creative activity out of it.
Okay.
I have used some of my um, own photographs for collages
Oh, okay.
sometimes, or I've tried to like do some effects. There was an example where I took a photograph of some. There were some trees or shrubs, and I did something with a filter where it reversed the. I can't remember if it was reversing the colors or reversing the tone, and they ended up the very natural trees ended up being this very intense, like hot pink or hot purplish pink. So it gave it kind of a interesting balance of it's nat it's natural, but it's not natural. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like an expressive picture of nature. So sort of it is nature that I came across, but I used Photoshop to kind of give it a somewhat unreal or expressive quality.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up making like the trees and turning into pink because if like there's like old 35 millimeter film that used to do that where like Kodak Aerochrome where they would turn all the greens and the shrubbery into like this bright pink, and it was interesting hearing how you kind of replicated that through
Mhm.
Photoshop. Yeah. Would you find that what you photograph is just is it kind of a reflection on yourself on what you enjoy? Because you were saying how you just enjoy being outside, being in nature, but also the expression of architecture. So do you photograph just things that you find interesting?
I think so. I tend to be drawn to old things a lot, like old artworks, old buildings, old towns. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's just the aesthetics that appeal to me, but I just find certain forms to be just they appeal to me on some level, and I just like to capture the shapes and the silhouettes and things like that. Nature, I like the forms of nature, but also there's kind of a expressive quality where I find it just expresses like harmony or serenity or calm. So in photographing certain scenes in nature, I try to capture the sense of like, calmness or stillness or things, qualities like that.
Something I wanted to ask you about is when you're creating these photos, when you're creating these collages, are you kind of creating them for just your own creative fulfillment, or do you also think about like the like who is like who will eventually see your artwork and how it will reflect on them?
I guess it's a combination of them. Um, it is like in large part kind of me wanting to express the feeling or the idea that I have in my head. But I do also hope that it communicates a particular like feeling or idea to the person who will be looking at it. And I hope that they share some of the feeling or the concept that I had in my mind when I was creating the collage or the photograph.
So it's like a outlet for you to use your own self-expression through artwork and to share similar thoughts and feelings that you have.
Yeah, I guess it's a combination of that and expressing my own feeling or idea.
Yeah, through like when you like distribute your artwork, do you have a certain mindset or process on how you want people to see it versus like on a website or on like social media or on like something like Persona Land? Like how does that really affect how you create your art?
Well, I'm open to having it, people being able to consume it in different ways. Obviously, not everybody can come and see the picture hanging on the wall. So I think it's great if one can share it through social media or to share it through something like Persona Land, where it's posted in an online show or an online gallery where people who might be in other states or other countries can share in the artwork also. And I'm also able to see the work of other people who might be in other states or other countries, and you can, enjoy them and, you know, take part in that experience
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, I wanted also to ask, how did you get involved with Persona Land? What was that experience like?
I took a art marketing class one time, and my teacher, who's a full time artist, her name's Lauren Curtis, and she's also taken part in Persona Land shows. She told me about Stuart and this venue that he has. where people can share their art online and have other people see their art. So that's how I found out about Persona Land and Stewart.
Yeah, I got to speak with Lauren like last week. I didn't know that you're one of his. That's that's such a coincidence.
Yeah.
Uh, so you just saw that Persona as a platform to like share your art through an online gallery.
Well, she told me that it would be, it was something I could be interested in because, um, there's no anyone pretty much is welcome to share their artwork. Stewart is very welcoming to
Yeah.
people, no matter what their medium is, what their style is. He's pretty he pretty much opens his arms to anybody who wants to submit their artwork to them and be able to share your artwork with other artists and with other people in the world who are interested in looking at art.
Yeah, and what do you consider doing in the future? Like you spoke about taking art marketing classes. Do you want to like expand your space in the art world?
I'm not really sure right now. Like I said, I did have the transition from collage to a lot of photography now, but I'm just trying to keep my future open and to keep myself open to other ideas, maybe other art forms. I'm not really sure, but I'm just trying to keep myself open to whatever the future might bring.
Yeah, of course. I love to hear it. Before we wrap up, do you have anything else you want to say about your artwork, about art in general? Anything?
Oh, I think it's important to make uh, art available to others and to let people like share their expressions. I know sometimes it's not the highest priority with the powers that be with budget, and some people might not think it's the most important thing to prioritize in this time and age, but it is important. It is important to allow people to express themselves, and it is an important form of communication where people can speak to each other, artists can communicate with each other, and just everyday people can take part in art. They can share feelings, and it's just an important way of connecting people and keeping them open to each other.
Yeah, thank you for that message, and also thank you for being able to meet with me and carving out time in your schedule. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. I'm honored that you are interested in talking to me and are interested in my thoughts.